Call the meeting of today to order, and we begin with a prayer. Heavenly Father, grant that we who would seek to serve you may have the wisdom of your Spirit, the guiding of your hand, and the grace to serve together for the prosperity of our city, through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. Let's do our national anthem. Just in time.
Australians, oh, let us rejoice, for we are one and free. We've golden soil and wealth for toil. Our home is girt by sea. Our land abounds in nature's gifts, all beauty rich and rare. In history's page, let every stage advance Australia fair. In joyful strains that let us sing, advance Australia fair.
Second verse. Can you
Rejoice, for we are one and free. We've golden soil.
Thank you. Okay. There's no attendance and apologies, so we'll go to item 2. There's no leave of absence, so we'll go to item 3.1. Councillor Peter Young.
Good morning, Mr Mayor. I am very sorry to be seeking that Council pass a motion of condolence in the passing of Mrs Helen Daly from Nerang.
Seconder, Councillor Pauline Young.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Helen Daly was very much loved member of the community of Nerang and involved in so many groups and organisations, and we had the joy of being able to celebrate her life just a couple of months ago when everybody learned that she was drastically ill, and so there's a big get-together. A lot of people had a very nice day, and so of course did Helen. She's passed just last week, and the whole community is very much affected, and I'd just like to offer my condolences to her family, and she's survived by her husband George and 3 children. Thanks, Mr Mayor.
Councillors, put the motion to you. All in favour, show of hands. Against? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Okay, then we go to Councillor O'Neill.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Mr Mayor, I ask that the Council accept a motion of condolence and message of sympathy be sent to Mrs Donna Fine, the wife of Ray Freddie Fine, who passed away recently.
Yeah, seconder, Councillor McDonald.
Mr Mayor, in a devastating blow to the Queensland life-saving community, Ray Freddie Fine passed away recently and unexpectedly of a heart attack. He was just 60 years old. First job was a beach inspector with Gold Coast City Council back in the 70s, but more recently, Freddie was a life member of the Rainbow Bay Surf Lifesaving Club, a life member of the Point Danger branch, and a life member of Queensland Surf Lifesaving. He was also a patrol member, official and assessor at the Currumbin Vikings Surf Lifesaving Club. Amongst all of his other achievements, his latest achievements was he was Volunteer of the Year for Surf Lifesaving Queensland for the last 2 years. Kerry Barnes, General Manager of Surf Lifesaving Queensland, said at his recent funeral, "There will never be enough words, adjectives or sentiments that could be used to describe this man and his impact not only on lifesaving but on all those who knew him. He dedicated his lifetime to lifesaving at all levels, and God did he nail it." In the words of Vikings past president Ben Munro, Freddie was, simply put, a legend of lifesaving. There was nothing he did not achieve in lifesaving. If there was a textbook on how to volunteer, inspire and lead people, Fred would be on the cover. I knew Freddie from the time I was a councillor, and I have forgiven him for mistaking me for Karen Andrews in my first term. He also trained the Viking nippers with such enthusiasm, and he would march up and down the beach shouting, "It's ripper to be a nipper." As we all knew, you could hear Freddie long before you actually saw him. He was a giant of a man. Obviously a very dedicated family man, his 4 adult daughters spoke glowingly of their father at his funeral. I might add there was about 1,000 people at that funeral. Our deepest sympathies go out to his wife of 36 years, Donna, and his daughters Samantha, Taylor, Claudia and Olivia, who are still all very involved with the life-saving community. If he had any failings, it was just that he loved VB beer and he supported Manly. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor, I put the motion to you. All in favour, show of hands. Against? Motion carried. Councillor McDonald will be added to it. Councillor Pauline Young, Councillor Herman Vorster. Okay. Councillors, I move a motion of condolence and that the message of sympathy be sent to the Sattler family of the passing of a legend of Australian professional rugby league, John William Sattler. Seconder, Councillor Gates. Our thoughts with John's family, his wife Barbara, his son Scott and Rebecca, Scott's wife, and their John's grandsons Jack and Olivia, as well as John's daughter Lisa and Lisa's husband Tony, with the grandkids Jordan, Blake and Sophie Scott. John was born in Tillara in 1942 and moved to Kurri Kurri when he was 12. John began playing rugby league for Kurri Kurri at the age of 16, and in 1963 he joined the South Sydney Rabbitohs. John played in 6 grand finals, with South Sydney winning 4 as captain. He captained Australia in the second test of the 1970 Ashes series and was honoured as one of Australia's greatest 100 players in the centenary season in 2008. The same year he was inducted into the NRL Hall of Fame. He is remembered as a tough and courageous but fair man. John is also remembered for his support of a range of community clubs. In particular, he was instrumental in setting up Gold Coast Tweed Giants in 1988. This was purchased by Seagulls and the club was renamed the Gold Coast Seagulls. Later, John ran several Gold Coast pubs, including Queen's, Cecil and the Pacific. Our thoughts are with John's family and trust that his lasting legacy to rugby league will give you strength and comfort during this difficult time. Councillors, I move the motion and all in favour shows hands. Against? The motion carried. Could you please add the following names? Councillor Owen Jones, Councillor Gates, Councillor Caldwell, Councillor Peter Young, Councillor Taylor, Councillor Vorster, Councillor McDonald and Councillor O'Neill. I don't have any other condolences, so we'll move on to Mayoral minute, councillors. There's one, and the councillors, I move the motion that's on the screen. The CEO recommended that we put this motion to you so that the smooth transition into experienced Gold Coast would occur. All right. Anyone? Councillor Patterson?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just as to point 2, because I'm a company director on the Study Gold Coast Board, it's most appropriate that I write and send that resignation, and certainly the CEO can send a letter confirming that, but I'll do that tomorrow.
Okay. Councillor, anyone speak against the motion? Put the motion to you. All in favour show of hands. Against? Carried. Unanimous. Confirmation of minutes. Councillor, any correction in the last minutes? Someone like to move for adoption? Councillor Tozer, second to Councillor Peter Young. Anyone speak against? Put the motion to you. All in favour, show of hands. Against? Motion carried. Next item, we go to Mayor's report. There you go. Guess who's that? I picked her up at the Harry Styles concert, and look, it was well over 50,000 people there. Some was quoting 55,000, and we flocked it to the newly named Heritage Bank Stadium, and well, this is our largest music event hosted in our city, and it's a major coup. And on the back of Harry's tour, there are some more famous names that will be coming out to the Gold Coast. 36,000 people utilised public transport to the concert, which is the highest it has ever been for an event of this nature. And of course, you know, after an event, you can get your TV camera and ask somebody in line, you know, leading question that how terrible it is, how long it is, you got to wait for the bus. But when I go around and ask people in line, how was the concert? It was good, and you know, lining up here, you can talk about it. It's still good fun, and not a problem at all. So I didn't ask us one. I might as well mingle around, take a few more selfies, and we had a great night. Gold Coast Homeless Symposium, I attended that, organised by the Gold Coast Homeless Network. The theme of the forum was bringing communities together, because no one organisation can solve homelessness. The forum focused on collaboration of agencies that are working to support our most vulnerable residents. The challenge of the past few years has been hit by Gold Coast as hard, and we're seeing increased demand for homelessness services. While the state government has responsibility for providing housing and the like, you know, we do our best to help coordinate, especially the funding, the food, and so it was a great symposium to coordinate that. Hopefully that we do it every year, so because as the landscape change, and I thank all agencies that support this initiative. Then on 2nd of March, Councillor Gates and I hosted the 2022 winners of the Gold Coast Women in Business Awards at lunch at Hodder Palette Restaurant. It was our 11th hosting. Congratulations to Karen Phillips, the founder of these annual awards, that has done an extraordinary job providing a platform for female business excellence to be recognised. The supreme winner was Cherie Young. She's now CEO of Body Science. And next one is Palm Beach Aquatic and Community Centre. I joined up with Councillor O'Neill and Councillor McDonald, and that's, I think it's the first major concrete slab pour, one of 7, and the redevelopment is one of the great achievements for our southern part of our city. There's a larger warm water program, learn to swim pools, fitness centre, 25 metre heated outdoor pool as well, and a whole new much needed community centre with multi-purpose hall, meeting rooms, dance studio, crash and new cafe. I think the total of steel, 135 tonnes, 2,000 cubic metres of concrete, so it's quite a sizable project. The project provides 363 jobs for construction, and 49 of which are suppliers, all from this region. Destination Gold Coast International Women's Day Luncheon. Councillor Gates are in attendance. Not sure if other councillors was there. Councillor Pauline Young and Councillor O'Neill, Councillor Tozer, Councillor Castro, Councillor Corwell, Councillor Owen Jones. And yes, we heard from very high achieving CEOs, Cindy Hook, Patricia O'Callaghan, we all know her, and Dr. Dinesh Palapani was there as well, and Amy Gash, the Queensland Tourism Award Young Achiever and custodian of Lady Elliot Island. And I'm always proud to celebrate International Women's Day and all the inspiring women we have on the Gold Coast. We're very fortunate to have very talented women in our business and in council. Next one, Gold Coast Sun season launch. Official kicked off on 8th of March, the launch. We farewell our outgoing Sun chairman, Tony Cochrane, who leaves the club in great condition, and welcome incoming chair, Bob East. And I wish the Suns all the best for a successful season. Delegation from Daping, new district in Shenzhen, and I welcome the delegation. Excellent example of world-famous tourist destination, and Mr. Lee Guanyang, Secretary Party Working Committee. Daping is located in the east part of Shenzhen City, surrounded by the South China Sea, with kilometres of coastline and beaches. So it's similar to what we have, and it'll be an interesting place to go and visit should that occur. Mayoral visit to Sydney, tour of Kudos Bank Arena, and I caught up with NBL chairman, co-chairman Larry Kesselman, and he came up to see me up here, and then I caught up with him, watched the Sydney Kings beat New Zealand Breakers. The capacity crowd of 20,000 people was there to watch this game, and to see how it all works. As of my desk yesterday, I haven't had time to read it, but Larry's put a proposal to us of how to get a national team, basketball team, to the Gold Coast or playing some games here on the Gold Coast. So I'll get into that and have a look and see what we can do and bring it back to you, what we need to get done. And then next day, luckily, had Tim Su fight versus Harrison, world title, and congratulations to Tim. As you all know, Tim trained a lot of his work up here on the Gold Coast, and Dr. Bill was there, so it was good. And I was taken around to show the venue by Tim Wharton, venue management, on how they operate that arena and the size of it, how flexible it is, and the more arena we can get in our heads, the more chance that should we decide to do an arena on the Gold Coast, we get the latest technology and the right size and multi-function use. Then went across to see the Titans versus the Dragons, and unfortunately we were doing well till the second quarter, and unfortunately at the times we didn't quite get there. Recent mayoral events, expansion of City Green organic waste service. There's a video there that tells you everything.
The Gold Coast just got a whole lot greener. Council announcing every Gold Coast household will have a green waste bin by the end of the year.
Green bins given the green light.
Council will deploy another 77,000 green bins throughout our city.
By the end of this year, every Gold Coast household will have 3 bins: general waste, recycling, and a brand new green bin for garden waste.
It'll be subsidised for the first year. That's code for being free.
Once the rebate runs out, the new bins will cost about $1 a week.
It's a pretty easy cost to bear for doing the right thing for the environment.
Over the next 5 years, the move's saving more than $13 million in waste levy fees.
With that saving in the levy, well, we want that put aside for other solution we have in mind.
And teaching the future of the Gold Coast the importance of keeping the city clean.
It's safest to put the right things in the right bins because then we're not polluting the air.
The bins will be rolled out from July. They'll be collected fortnightly on alternating weeks to the recycling bin. For more information, head to Council's website. Chloe Robinson, 9 Gold Coast News.
Okay. Then I went across to Magical Mudgery Bar, hosted by Councillor Tozer, showing me the renovated Firth Park Community Centre. Well done. It was a magnificent facility, not just for sport, but for other community use as well. And the master plan is there. Councillor Tozer's got a great vision for that area. So looking forward to discussing it in our budget. Then we went across to have some of the best food at Junior's Deli, and I recommend it to you. And no, that's not a free ad. It was truly beautiful. Mudgery Bar, Village Arts and Crafts Collective, Bookness Mudgery Bar. So there you go. I can't remember what the name is. It starts with us. It starts with us. It's the name of the book, and that was my wedding anniversary to Ruth. Oh, what a champion. Next item, Audrey Films set visit. Local is bringing 6 production to our city, creating 870 jobs. Another example of how our film industry it's growing. Gold Coast Titans multicultural round and citizen ceremony on the Saturday the 18th, and to celebrate that, we had a citizenship ceremony there, and at the Titans before the game start, and it was a great venue, and in that round. Oh yeah, that's a photo where we did that. We're using the King now as we're moving ahead, and so another 50 new Australians, and as they take the citizenship pledge, once that's done formally, before I gave them the certificate, one more pledge you got to do: go to the Titans. So we got another 50 permanent Titan supporters. And the scoreline against the Storm, 38-34, was a great win. Great win. Next one, Taiwanese teachers training delegation. 30 teachers came to our city. As you know, Taipei is our sister city, and we have embedded there a teacher in the program who's from the Gold Coast, and Tyler, I think his name is, and it's another wonderful initiative with the Taipei government. And then we had Takasu students delegation we welcome, and another sister city, and the participation homestay arrangement with Nerang State High School, and so all the kids were staying out in Nerang homes, and they visit Sky Point, Currumbin Wildlife Sanctuary, SeaWorld. They're going to go back, and they had a wonderful time on the Gold Coast. Then we launched on the 21st of March, Gold Coast Business Excellence Award. Councillor Pauline Young and Councillor O'Neill in attendance. Anyone else was there? Might have missed. The launch was hosted by Dr. Glenn McKay and Dr. Michael Smith. They the medical rescue team. They were the overall winner last year, and that's the rescue headquarters in Burleigh. What a successful story. 10 years ago when they started this business, there's people in their ears say, "Oh, you'll never make it on the Gold Coast." I'm so glad that they didn't take that advice and can continue on with their business. Councillor Gates.
Mr Mayor, if I could just speak to this at the moment. I went on your behalf to the annual luncheon, and Dr McCabe, obviously, as last year's winner, was a guest speaker. And although their business has been so terribly successful worldwide, they don't have a contract on the Gold Coast, even though they run their business from here. So I had forgotten to mention to you, he had asked if he could come and meet with us to have a discussion about how he might put in place some additional benefit for the Gold Coast. So I just mentioned that now since you raised it today.
Okay, all right, let's do that. But talking about world, I think they've got about 2,000 people now working all over the world rescuing people. So if there's a fire in Western Samoa, they're there. I think there was a baby that was finding difficult in Indonesia, right?
Yeah, it was the little baby that they went over and flew back that had the virus.
Yeah.
And the day of the luncheon, the little baby had been released from hospital the day prior. Yeah. So a real success story.
So if they didn't go and do that, and at the time when I was speaking to them, they said, "Oh, we didn't have the paperwork, or we just know that that the facility that they have there, the baby wouldn't make it." So they jump on a plane and off they went. And by the time they get there, the nurses were so pleased to see them because they know they don't have the facility, and brought the baby back. And the good news is she survived. So multiply that out, and that's all because of innovation and saving lives. And yeah, well, I'll make sure that we'll have that meeting and see what else we can do. Opening of Cool Beans Sons Childcare Centre. It's 7.5 years in the making. It's right next to the Heritage Bank. If you see a really big 11-metre high ball, before you go through there, there's not a full size, there's a AFL football field there, in there. Everyone gets a Suns jumper as they sign in, and so if you've got grandkids, it's too late for our kids, but grandkids, they can go there and they're going to be future Suns fans, and the facility is, I have to say, best in Australia. Next one, this one's a bit long, so what I did was I said, it's going to be a long message. Brisbane 2032 Organising Committee Board visit. So there's a video.
Poolside planning for 2032. The Gold Coast, a key piece in that puzzle.
We are benchmarking best in class, and right on our doorstep here in the Gold Coast, we have best in class.
If it wasn't for the Gold Coast hosting the Commonwealth Games back in 2018, Brisbane and Queensland would not be hosting the Olympic and Paralympic Games in 2032.
The city last time helped by a state and federal government funding windfall. This time there are less events here, but
the participation and the crowd for those 8 sports in our venues will be larger than the Commonwealth Games itself.
Although that's yet to translate into a cash splash. The Premier says we'll get Light Rail Stage 4 and the Coomera Connector, projects already in place before our Games bid.
Well, they're absolutely going to be necessary.
The Mayor is demanding more.
We're saving the 2032 Olympic a ton of money. It's only fair that additional infrastructure is met.
And existing sites upgraded. The Mayor argues the Aquatic Centre is a proven world-class facility, and an upgrade here is money better spent compared to a temporary centre planned for Brisbane.
Permanent facility gives you the legacy.
Something the Gold Coast is fighting hard to keep. Josh Ribberich, 7 Gold Coast News.
So in summary, basically, Councillor, the view is that temporary facility is reverse of legacy, because you're going to build it and then pull it down. Why would you do that? So if you're true to legacy idea, you'll want to upgrade existing facilities and go with it. I want to enter into debate regarding the GABA, going from 1 billion to 2.7. That says for itself, and they gain 8,000 seats out of that. But I note the Australian Olympic Committee chairman yesterday in the news said that the GABA is quite good, give it a coat of paint and it'll be fine. And but since then they've backtracked a little bit. So I hope they don't pay politics and value taxpayers' money and bill permanent legacy projects. Councillor Patterson.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I was wondering if I could ask, as I've heard, that at the moment the swimming would be temporary rather than a legacy item. You'd be looking at a temporary swimming pool at extraordinary cost. What was the conversation about that? Do you think that there's an openness to considering our already built aquatic centre?
I think Swimming Australia is doing that conversation right now because they love our facility. To upgrade it won't be that hard. The last time we did the upgrade was joint funding, and it's very well used. So I take that on board. There's things happening behind the scene. I'll be able to talk to you. Just give me 2 more weeks regarding infrastructure matter, and we're getting there. So it's delicate when you're talking money, and especially I want to talk about other people's money, not ours, and see how we go. Any more photos, or is that the last one, is it? Welcome ceremony, bit more bullshit there. Keep going. Oh, no. Yeah, all right, very good. The good thing we did was that we had our junior council there's the deputy mayor on the left, and Eva is the junior mayor. But here's the thing, they were there at one of the functions, and President Andrew and I were there, and Andrew just went, "Come over here, ask us the questions." And boy, did he cop some very well-learned questions, and so proud of our junior council, because those questions, like, he had to take notes. They were brilliant. They were brilliant, you know, and ones that, you know, they didn't have to be diplomatic at all. So I took notes myself because I want to know what the answers are. And so I would be remiss of me not to thank our officers, especially Trish Apps and her team. All the names are here in my mayor's report. Elton Twine and our CEO, and it's, you know, when we showed the organising committee, they know we're games ready, and it looks pretty smooth and easy going. But when you've got team working behind the scene, it just looks so smooth and easy on the go. It's really casual. We can do it. The other thing that I love about the stats is this, whether it's Coomera Sports Centre or one out of Carrara, one thing that stuck out in my mind is that utilisation for community and together with sporting groups, they are 100% now recoverable. They're paying for themselves. Maintenance, the whole works. So that's what you call legacy. You can't do that for a temporary one because you you can't use a temporary one after the game. It's pulled down. You know, I don't have to be a genius. That's why I said it. Next one, Gold Coast Sports Stars Award. And it was at the Royal Pines. A lot of big names. And congratulations to all the finalists. Mayor's Choice Award was Elijah Winnington, 3-time gold medal winner in men's 400 freestyle at Birmingham Commonwealth Games. Madison Levy excelled in rugby sevens, winning the gold at the Commonwealth Games and Rugby World Cup sevens. And Sports Star of the Year, boxer Jai Hopatai. So we're just a bit shaping up a little bit there. I didn't take any further because I don't want to hurt him. Of course. And then on the Sunday, walk for motor neurone disease. This is why Australians are great. You know, the motto of the walk that day was "Walked to defeat." You know, letter D and FEE. So walk to defeat, and yet there's no cure for MND. If you get MND, you know it's just gradually it'll take you. But yet we never said die and raised some funds and what's one advocacy thing that I will put to you. If you're diagnosed with MND, say just before you're 65, you're sweet. Costs about $240,000 to be looked after, right? If you got MND but you didn't go and get diagnosed and you happen to be past 65, you get zero. Nothing. How does that work? So, being 64, I'm going to raise as much funds as I can. Anyhow, I thought I'd share that with you. For those who are already 65, well, got to change the law. I think it doesn't matter how old you are. If you need help, you need help. Then I went and visit East Wharf, Big Brother program. They did the presentation here at the Mayor's Safer Suburbs, and those kids, I mean, they've had it tough, but the sense is this. I was there, they're cooking breakfast, there's meditation room, they're telling you about their daily thing, and after the program, X number of weeks, they get a job, get off the street, and even a year or two later, those one that's gone through the program come back and see how everyone else is going and show their latest car that they saved up and bought. It's a real family feeling in there. So I'm going to get a debrief, got to share that information with people with who's got some more resource and funding. I'm going to pull the mayoress into it and see if they can get food over to there from Oz Harvest and some of the other people who are in the rich list. It's a really worthwhile, and their life story that they share is magnificent. And you know, state government, if they fund this, youth crime would be down. You know, these kids got purpose, and so that's going to be one advocacy thing that I'll ask you to join me in, so that the more people with connection can help. It would be great. And yesterday we did the citizenship ceremony, and one in the morning, one in the afternoon. So another 500 Aussies, more importantly Gold Coasters. Councillors, I move that my Mayor's report be noted and welcome. Second, Councillor Gates. Put motion to you. All in favour, show hands. Against? Carry, unanimous. There are some important things there. That's why I took my time this time, councillors. So, clarification for members, nil. Business arising from the minutes, nil. Presentation. We've got Dr. Pine, Currumbin Wildlife Hospital. Can we ask him to come in, please, Mr. CEO? And there's some printouts there, yes. Oh, he's coming out this way. There he is. Welcome, Dr. Pine, please. All right, use that if you want to.
I think I'm getting.
Oh, okay. Well,
yeah.
well, then sit down here if you want. What...
I'll just be very quick.
All right, okay. Right. Welcome.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Mayor, councillors, city executives. Thank you for the opportunity today to present to you all. I would firstly like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land that we meet upon, the Kumameri families of the Gold Coast, and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. My name's Travis Cooch. I'm the General Manager of Currumbin Wildlife Sanctuary, and I'm very pleased to be here today, joined by Dr. Michael Pine and Georgia Lane, representing Currumbin Wildlife Hospital. As an environmental charity, we are very excited to be here today. We have a project on the horizon that will be world-leading in shaping research and education for the Gold Coast, Australia and across the world. Without further ado, I'd like to hand you to Georgia and Dr. Pine to take you through the presentation today. Thank you.
Thank you, Travis. And thank you for the invitation to be here. We're very grateful for your support, and we're looking forward to taking you through a little bit of a presentation today to tell you about a very exciting project that is going to put the Gold Coast on the world stage as far as wildlife research and conservation goes. So what we'll take you through this morning is a little bit about Currumbin Wildlife Hospital. I know that 7 of the councillors here are wonderful, generous supporters of the hospital, and we thank you. We're very grateful for not only your financial support but your advocacy. And for the other councillors, we would love to invite you to come in and visit. Because did you know that Currumbin Wildlife Hospital is one of the busiest wildlife hospitals in the world? So please show of hands who has been to the hospital. Great. Thank you. We invite you back. And Dr. Michael Pine will take you through some of the stats. We're also going to focus on the fact that not only is the Currumbin Wildlife Hospital one of the busiest wildlife hospitals in the world, treating over 14,000 patients a year. And just to put that into perspective, can anybody tell me, perhaps one of our colleagues who we do work with, Taronga Zoo, they have a wildlife hospital too. Can anybody tell me how many they treat a year? So last year, the same period of time, they treated 1,500. So you can see that we are lucky to live in this rich, diverse environment as far as natural beauty goes, but it also does bring, a dilemma with the number of animals that we treat and administer care. But one of the goals of Dr. Michael Pine and his team, as you'll see today, is to reduce those hospital admissions. And that's a multifactorial approach, because we must look to science and applied research to make that happen. Dr. Pine is going to take you through today the program that you are the founding members to save the koala species. We're then going to talk about why we're well positioned to build this important wildlife research and training facility, because It's on the grounds of the iconic, celebrating 75 years this year, Currumbin Wildlife Sanctuary, which Travis Couch is the General Manager of. And we are going to tell you about this project that we are ready to build. And then we're going to ask for your support. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Dr. Pine to tell you about the hospital and research.
Amazing, thanks Georgia. Look, just to paint the picture, I think most of you are well aware of the hospital and how busy it is, but I guess this slide just demonstrates how really the last kind of 15 years our admissions have gone up steadily year after year after year, and it's not sustainable. I mean, it's something that we're chasing our tails every year, trying to keep up with these admissions, and it's in a way not something I'm proud of. What I want to see is those admissions, start to level off, start to come down, and truly to achieve that, the thoughts are that we need to get into that space of applied research, not just research for research's sake, but research that has outcomes that benefit the wildlife, directly, and through education. We need to be educating the local vets, vet nurses, so they can do their bit. We need to educate and help with the wildlife carers and the community. We want them to be doing more out there and get stronger into that space. And certainly we made a great start on that, through support from the city with our vaccine program against koala chlamydia. And I think look, this is just a slide obviously showing how, how much support we have. We're seeing that 14,000, we've got 180 volunteers, some great vets and vet nurses, and we work closely with those wildlife carers to to be able to manage the actual intake. And we've got 3 ambulances that do the rounds of the Gold Coast, picking up injured wildlife. But I guess to get to the point with our vaccine work, this slide shows the admissions into the wildlife hospital leading up to when we started the vaccine project. The blue line is the diseased koalas, and you can see how that's just going up and up and up on that 10 years. And the great majority of that is chlamydial disease. And chlamydial disease is a true threatening process, and it is really one of the primary reasons why koalas are listed as endangered in Queensland. Without that chlamydial disease, down south in your Victorian, South Australian koalas where there's very little chlamydia, they're not endangered. They're not, they still face the same threats with habitat loss and, urbanisation, but they're doing well down there because there's not disease. Our koalas are facing a lot of disease, with chlamydia being the primary reason. So, of course, we wanted to do something about that, and, and through collaboration with QUT, who had been developing a vaccine really over the last decade, we were able to set up a project to, attack that and see what we could achieve, because the vaccine had been developed but never proven. Did it work in the wild? Did it truly protect them, or was it just one of these vaccines that didn't do very much? So our project really was looking at 2 things. One was to vaccinate every koala that came through the hospital and got released. And 2, it was to focus on the most diseased population that we've got on the coast, and that, sadly, is the Eleonora population. This gives you a bit of a breakdown on chlamydial disease with admissions into our wildlife hospitals. In the red is your Eleonora, Tallebudgera, that southern population, which for whatever reason, and we truly don't know why, they're the most diseased. Coomera faces similar challenges. They've got a lot of disease up there. And then in the middle, you've got, various suburbs where they do okay. There's a bit of disease in there. But Eleonora is really very, very high levels of chlamydia. So what we want to do in Eleonora was get out the young koalas, catch them before they get exposed to disease, vaccinate them, release them back out into that population, and then track them for the next 3 years, recatching them to see, do they still have disease? Are they protected? What is going on there? And we're about halfway through that project now, and I've got to say it's super encouraging, the results that we're getting as far as what's coming back. So there's a little bit of a breakdown. We've vaccinated over 250 koalas on the Gold Coast now, which is fantastic, obviously. In Eleonora, we aim to be tracking 30 koalas in there. Currently, we've got 29 in there that we've vaccinated and tracking. And, we're recatching them. They're still disease-free. Everything's looking great. And I guess almost more importantly is there's 12 joeys that have been born in 2.5 years just to the koalas that we've vaccinated. Pauline?
Sorry, Mr Mayor, is it okay if I just ask, do they only need to be vaccinated once, or do you have to bring them back in?
See,
Sorry.
I was going to save you the details, but since you asked. So there's two vaccines. The proven vaccine is 2 injections 4 weeks apart. So we know that vaccine produces a good antibody response for the life of a koala. You know, that's been done in captive koalas. There's also a single shot vaccine, which is kind of like a boosted vaccine where it's a single one. It's not proven at all. It's very unlikely that it's going to provide lifelong protection. But obviously a single vaccine is a lot easier to administer, give them 1 jab and send them on their way, than one that has to be given 4 weeks apart. And look, it is one of the big challenges of it. And it is something that we're looking at with QUT, where the next phase of the project would be to develop perhaps a slow or a delayed release implant. So you catch the koala once, you give them the first vaccine, you give an implant, that implant dissolves over the next 4 weeks, then pops and gives the second booster at that point. And it's technology that exists now. They're using it in production animals for the same reasons. They don't want to catch that cattle or the sheep twice. So it's something that, you know, we're looking at funding with that through federal grants and things. So yeah, it's a great question, because in the long run, we want it to be as cheap and as practical as possible. You know, so yeah. Exactly, and you know, and the big cost of this project is the labour in catching, tracking and recatching. So in the long term, yes, we want it to be something we can catch a koala from the wild, do everything there and then release it straight away, and it's fully protected. Yeah. So look, it's going very well, I guess, is the point here. And look, this slide's just to point out the importance of that community involvement. And we were very, I guess, conscious that, particularly in Elanora, a lot of these koalas live in people's backyards. You know, we needed them to be on side. If they thought we were doing anything bad with their koalas, they wouldn't have given us access, and it would have been a disaster. But the guys led by Lewis McKillop have been fantastic. We put a lot of effort into winning the locals over with little community, you know, presentations and things. And in fact, it's got to the point now that one of our biggest challenges was finding a healthy koala. You know, they're damn hard to find. They're hiding up in the trees and things. Now all we've got to do is put a Facebook post out and say, has anyone seen a koala in their backyard? And we get inundated with, yes, I've got one, come out and, you know, and catch him and vaccinate him. So they're very supportive of the project, which has been, you know, fantastic, but it's really helped us, you know, I guess, do what we want to do. So it's been so successful, and this wasn't part of the plan originally, was that the vaccine is now on the process of being registered, and that's a huge step. You know, we didn't really think that was realistic at the start, but it's now being submitted, you know, for registration using the data from our project to show that it's really doing something and it's protecting these koalas. If it becomes registered, suddenly that vaccine becomes available to wildlife vets Australia-wide. This becomes a nationwide success, not just something that we're doing on the Gold Coast. And it means that the vaccine can then be sitting in the freezer or sitting in the fridge. At the moment, we've got to have it made every week. So it becomes available and it starts to benefit the species, you know, nationwide. And it's just, I guess, a great example of how applied research can have true outcomes that have, you know, a real impact. And I guess from here is the dream then to, I guess, lead to wanting to do more research, really, you know, lift the game and bring it to an even bigger level. I've got to have a cute and cuddly photo. So, so this is Cassidy. So she's a bit of a sweetheart that has now had 2 joeys, and that's little Cooley that was born during the process. Cooley's now grown up, left mum, and Cooley's been vaccinated, and we're tracking her as well. So, but she's just a great example of the whole story. How she was vaccinated as a youngster when she was only, you know, 3.5 kilos, and she's protected. She lives in an area where sadly there's a lot of diseased boys, but she has remained disease-free, and likely because of the vaccine, of course, and she's having joeys and obviously increasing the population, you know, there in the Elanora area. So, of course, we couldn't have done it without the City of Gold Coast, who were the initial partners in this project, you know, committing funding to us, and we've brought a heap of others on board, you know, to leverage that initial money that's allowing us to do this 5-year project. So we're only halfway, but really couldn't have asked for more, you know, in this. And I guess in the future, obviously, when this project's done, we want to be rolling this out across other populations across the Gold Coast. We don't want to leave it as just an Elanora thing. I think there's other populations that can, of course, benefit from the vaccine. Now on to the bigger and better stuff, what we're really here for. So I guess because we've achieved this, we can see the benefits of applied research. And I really want to focus that we're doing applied work. We don't want to be kind of just mucking around. We want real outcomes for our wildlife. So we're proposing, this amazing research centre and education centre where we can truly do some amazing things for wildlife. I guess started off, with the vaccine work, but we can, grow into much bigger and better. What's, I guess, unique about our situation is we've got a wildlife hospital that's admitting 14,000 animals a year. That's gold for a researcher. We've got a captive collection of 1,000 animals where long-term studies can be done. Again, that's gold for a researcher. We've got strong relationships with all the relevant players out there, from QUT and UQ that in that animal space. We're starting to work with Griffith a little bit and finding spaces where we can collaborate. But there's such a potential here. And this wouldn't just be a small local setup. This would be a truly worldwide research centre of excellence. We would be attracting international researchers. We would have, this would go over such a wide area, and it wouldn't just be, I guess, benefiting local animals. It would benefit, everything and make such a big difference. And we would be recognised for that. It wouldn't be a small deal at all. And of course, there's heaps of visitors through the sanctuary that would be, watching and observing and seeing, and all this, will be on display. But I guess just to show you the plans, and I've certainly got some hard copies here, but has this got a pointer? No. So I guess the main point of this is that we've got our existing hospital, which stays where it is. The hospital remains and keeps doing the good work. And then it connects up through the back of the hospital into the research wing that you can see up the top in the blue. So all of these labs here are on display. So they've got glass on them. People can view what's happening, and and we've really got everything happening there. And it's a big setup. We can really comfortably house 3 postdocs, a heap of honours students, and international researchers. So the goal is really to do it big time. And certainly what we've designed is these labs at the end here are molecular labs. So that's DNA, genetics, that's where everything's going. That's where the big ticket stuff is. And, and it's a critical part, particularly when you start to think about fragmentation of habitat, managing genetics. It's unavoidable that we've got to move animals around, that we've got to, I guess, manage those genetics in areas, and the molecular work will certainly go a long way to achieving that. And then down the bottom here, we've got our critical education theatre, and we want to be sharing what we know, but we want to be teaching others, and the education theatre will help it pay its way as well. We can get conferences in, we can get tourists in and things, and really cover the ongoing costs in there. There is an upstairs for above the research lab, which is mainly concentrated on space for those visiting researchers. We want those honours students, we want those international researchers to have space to be able to spend their time and write up the stories. So we've kind of touched on the research centre already. Again, molecular is the, I guess, the way forwards, but we could really do any types of research in there. And the education centre, look, we certainly want to be teaching the vets, the vet nurses. We want to be teaching the wildlife carers. We want to provide, space for community to learn about wildlife as well. And as I said, a lot of it's in this centre will be to pay the way and get those international, those fee-paying students from overseas. That will come, and that'll help more than cover the costs of running it. And this is just really pointing out that we've got, viewing here, so everyone can go in, they can see, much like the back of the hospital now, so it's a whole precinct where people can come, observe and learn, and there will be an interpretation area, which again is all about teaching people about wildlife. What can they do at home? How can they benefit things and make a difference in their own backyard? And look, I'll throw over to Georgia in a moment, because she's more all over the tourism side and everything like that. But certainly there's so many opportunities in there. But look, I guess just in summary from me, this is a huge project that would really put us on the map, put the Gold Coast on the map as far as wildlife research. And as I said, there would be real outcomes from this research, and real, I guess, benefits to the local wildlife, but really attract those international, not just researchers but visitors, who want to see the kind of work that can be done and can be achieved on the back of a wildlife hospital and a sanctuary that's got so much going for it. So I'll let Georgia take over to talk the money side and the tourism sides.
Thank you, Dr. Pine. You can see that we're all very excited about this project. Dr. Pine is gripping onto those plans tightly, but it is a major thing for the Gold Coast, and as I said before, it will put us on the world stage as far as wildlife research goes. Some of the opportunities, so we've been working with an economist, and you'll see in the appendices that there are some figures attached. I guess one of the important things is that this facility will actually wash its face once it's built. So we've done some numbers on various things. So as Dr. Pine mentioned, international students, what they look like. If you've been through the hospital lately, you've probably come across them. I know last week I had a major donor come in and visit, and we had to meet in the lunchroom because the hospital was literally full of Japanese students. So we're actually not going out looking for these students. They're coming to us at the moment. And once we've got the space, we can actually reach out and develop relationships to continue them coming. So, for example, Japanese students will come in quite large groups, and they'll come and stay for 1 to 2 weeks, and paying around about $60,000 to come and have the privilege of working in this rich environment where they can literally be hands-on learning and also be lecturing from their lecturers. The other types of students we're seeing are North American students, so perhaps from Texas A&M studying veterinary science. Their parents want them to stand out amongst the crowd of other students. They will fund for them, and often their families will come with them to come and stay and pay considerable amounts of money for that applied research opportunity. Some of the other areas that we're looking at are ethical travellers. Voluntourism is a massive thing, and National Trust as an organisation, we've got 16 properties throughout Queensland that we do focus on that. And just if you have a look at, I know I've looked at the over 50s travelling to give back. You can't buy a package for less than $8,000, but it's a massive growth area. So that's huge revenue that will come our way when this facility is built. In addition to the 500,000 plus travellers that come to the iconic Currumbin Wildlife Sanctuary, that will then be able to see, if you've been to the hospital recently, you can see the glass and the vet staff mic'd up telling people about how they're operating on wildlife. You'll now be able to see research happening as well. So basically we are ready for this. We have put together, we've been working with Burling Brown, who's a very well-known architect who has developed a lot of these similar projects. We're well and truly along the way to having this ready to dig. So we will have DA put in at the end of April. What we're looking for from you is help to make that happen, to make it a reality. It is very, very important. From a fundraising perspective, the conversations that I'm having with high net wealth funders, trusts and foundations is they're very interested. They're interested from a wildlife and environmental perspective, from a development perspective and from an education perspective, but they want to see that we have support from our city, from our state and from our federal governments. So that's what we're asking for, and that's our current focus. And we've had many meetings. We've met with state. We're yet to meet with federal, but we are driving towards that. We've certainly started conversations. There will be a considerable capital fundraising campaign. There will be opportunities for people who are interested, who have we call it an LIA, a link, interest and ability to fund this program, to perhaps name certain precincts. So we're looking at all of those sorts of things. The cost of the project, as you'll probably see in the packs, is just over $11 million. We're just about to go back to quantity surveyor after we get a number of reports to see if that's changed. We're hoping not too much in these current times. But that is a very real cost. We have gone through the process. We do know that that is what it's going to cost. We've already invested a considerable amount into the planning, the development and working with these contractors. So I guess what we need from you is we do need funding from our city. We have a lease on the land from you, which we're very grateful for, and it makes sense that this city has this long-term lease for this important facility treating wildlife on the Gold Coast. We're asking for an extension to that lease, and we're hoping that that would be, we don't know, 30 to 50 years. It needs to be a long-term lease for such an important facility. We're also looking for collaboration. We're looking for advocacy and support for us to get support from the various levels of government, but also links to people that you know that have that link, interest and ability to support this program. It will literally put the Gold Coast on the world stage, as we keep saying. So I guess that wraps up our presentation. I hope that you can see, as Mayor Tom Tate saw, that this is a really important project, and we're so grateful for your support so far for the hospital, the research program, and we're looking forward to working together with you to put Currumbin Wildlife Hospital on the world stage to show that the Gold Coast, this dynamic and rich natural environment, will play a part in making sure that this environment will continue for the future generations.
Councillor, let's show appreciation in a normal manner.
Are there any further questions for Dr. Pine, Travis?
Further questions? Councillor Pauline Young.
Thanks, Mr Mayor, and just through you to, and it's probably, Georgia, a question you can answer. My learned colleague beside me has been able to give me some figures, but there's about 70 koalas overseas in different zoos and things like that in USA and Canada and Japan. Have we thought of any sort of, Mr Mayor is always doing sister relationships with, you know, Taiwan and places like that. Have we got some sort of sister relationship with any of those establishments that may look at investing, or not just investing, but perhaps...
I'll jump in, Pauline. We do have relationships with Taiwan, so we assist them, we work closely with them, and we've also got a relationship with the Guangzhou koalas there, so they've got about 50 koalas in Guangzhou themselves, and I think it's about 15 in Taiwan, so we do have close relationships with both of those. We assist them, and certainly research is something they're both interested in, and yeah, you know, the same diseases that affect our wild koalas can affect captive koalas, and there's strong interest in that space, and we've been kind of liaising with them about opportunities there, you know, which at the moment are kind of limited, but we get something like this built, then it opens a world of opportunity, and fully agree. We've only got a relationship with those. I think there's potential in Japan to work with them. When you start talking Europe and North America, I think it can still happen, but, you know, we're probably not close to those setups there.
And just to add to that, I was actually in San Diego Zoo in January and met with the koala team there. Sarah Eggleston at the Sanctuary, who's been with us, she's our koala expert and has been there for 26 years. She reminded us that one of the enclosures are actually called the San Diego. And they look to us for koala stories. They were very interested in the work that Dr. Pine and his team are doing in the area of microbiome. So yes, we have an ongoing relationship with them. We also have an ongoing relationship with overseas universities, and that will build when we, you know, we get out of quiet phase, which is after we get commitment to get this project funded, and we will go out to those organisations and start talking to them about funding. We did receive some very generous donations during the bushfires, particularly from North America. So yes, there's lots of opportunity there.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Through you, I know everyone here does just love the work that you do, and it is so special that it's happening here in our city. So I was just wondering if you could be a little straight with us about that 11 million and what, perhaps based on previous funding from different levels of government, would be your expectation on what you would receive from local, city, local, state and federal in an ideal world for you. And then also the other aspect of that is whether you have done the work for presenting that to private investors, because you did talk about that there would be a yield afterwards of coming back. So I'd be interested in that when you're talking about links. And I mean, I've thought of investors who may be interested in that, family offices who are seeking that type of thing, but there'd need to be some solid work to present.
Definitely, thank you for the question. It's very important. So we, as I mentioned before, we're in quiet phase, which is fairly typical for a capital program like this. And when we're in quiet phase, we do have one-on-one conversations with a lot of our supporters. We've got some very, very generous supporters. The indications so far from them, particularly foundations, which is a very popular way of donating these days, have said that they would like to see a commitment from the levels of government before they make a commitment, but they're certainly very, very interested. So once we have that, we will then start meeting with people face to face and doing bespoke presentations to high net wealth people and foundations. So yeah, that will certainly happen. We are starting conversations and we have shared these plans with a number of our existing supporters. And yes, you know, we will have a considerable, we've got the marketing team behind us, and we will also work with consultants to help us with the capital fundraising program. The fundraising team, so I'm head of fundraising for National Trust, and I have a team of 5 people that work with me. So there will be a very professional and bespoke program that will go one-on-one first. And then once we have those people who say want to put their name to perhaps a part of the precinct, once we've got those big donors who really want to be a part of this, then we'll go public to raise the rest. And that's typical. So for example, the Taronga Zoo Scientific and Education Precinct, that's what they've done. They got government funding. It's a $34 million facility. They got $12 million from the New South Wales government, and then they raised money above and beyond that with private donors, and then they went public. I guess to answer your question about what we would expect from each level of government, I don't know, but I would like to see certainly that there would be a considerable investment, perhaps similar to what has been invested in other important facilities to bring people to the Gold Coast and protect our environment previously. And certainly we would love, because this is a very important city program or precinct, that we would like to see, I guess, almost equal donations from each level of government. Certainly from a state point of view, we would like to see considerable help. We get wonderful, generous support from the city and from state government currently, and we appreciate that for the operation of the hospital. So from the capital raising program, we'd like to see, you know, an equal commitment and investment in the future of, you know, this beautiful natural Gold Coast.
I don't know if could I just add a little bit to that answer? I guess, you know, ideally what we're looking for is a good chunk to get us started, you know, because once we've got that, we can put pressure on the state, pressure on the feds. We can really go back to our private donors. I mean, there's one foundation that's, you know, without really trying, they said, oh, we can give you $500,000, you know. So it's having that kick-start, you know, that really allows us to put pressure on others, you know, to say, well, look, you know, the City of Gold Coast have been fantastic. They've made a start. You know, we need, you know, more from the state. We need it from the feds. You know, until we get that first bit started, we're just kind of, you know, waiting and, you know, and then we can put pressure on everyone. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Firstly, is there a timeline that you've planned for this? It appears you're almost at the final stages. You're coming out with the cap in hand. Where to time-wise from this point?
As soon as we get the funding, we'll start building. We're hoping to have this finished by late next year. Late next year,
okay. And part 2 is, you know, I look after the whole southwest, so I probably have, you know, we have a lot of exposure to some of the work that you guys do, and we obviously home quite a lot of the koalas in Springwood National Park and around that area. What's going to happen when construction is ongoing? Is your operations going to be impacted by that? Or how is that going to work?
Absolutely minimal. The current hospital, if I can get that back up, but essentially there's just one linkage area, and we can avoid using that part of the hospital. It's actually down the quiet end of the hospital where we treat the sanctuary animals. So essentially there's just this linkage area kind of at the east end of the hospital. So it'll have minimal impact really on the way we operate with the wildlife coming through. Yeah.
Once it is up and operational, what's the growth in... Because obviously you're doing 14,000 animals a year right now, which seems like a lot. Is there some projections in relation to the new facility and whether that will increase the number of animals or the number of team members that are servicing the needs of the city?
Sure. Well, I hope it doesn't increase the number of animals. The goal is to reduce, because really it shouldn't affect the animals that are coming in unless we're preventing them coming in. So it's really utilising those animals as they come through to get samples from them and learn from them. Certainly team members, yes, we're going to have more. We're at its capacity, we'd be probably having another 10 researchers on site there, and there would be a need for a few more nursing staff to assist with that, so, and certainly potential for other students coming through. So certainly staff members, yes, there's going to be more. Animal wise, there shouldn't be more animals, but maybe some will stay a bit longer, to I guess see the benefits of whatever we're applying with their treatment, but we shouldn't be seeing an increase. The whole, I guess, goal of this is hopefully to see things start to come down over time because of what we're learning, using it in the wild and stopping the animals coming in the first place. Yeah.
One of the big opportunities is the, in principle, partnership agreements we have with universities. So while we'll have lots of extra researchers and people in the hospital, they will be from universities. We just don't have the space for them at the moment.
Thank you very much, Mr Mayor, and thank you for inviting our friends from the Currumbin Wildlife Sanctuary and Hospital here today. I think it's always beneficial when we have people at the coalface able to share their passion and insight. Mr Mayor, I just have two very quick questions. And we saw a motion that just flashed on the screen, and I won't presume to foreshadow it, Mr Mayor, but plainly, the hospital would like to attract funding from all three levels of government. Mr Mayor, you may recall in the past, sometimes when we have sought a tripartite agreement, we've always made council's funding contingent on the second or third party coming to the table, and quite often we've put a deadline to it. So, Mr Mayor, I suppose my question to you, or through you to the team at the sanctuary and the hospital, is would we strengthen the negotiating position of the hospital and sanctuary and council if we were to make some notional financial commitment to make that contingent on the project being delivered or under substantial construction within 24 months? Would that assist or hinder the journey to realising the project?
I would certainly say it would assist. Yeah. Yes, definitely.
So, Mr Mayor, I think it's a funny situation. It's almost as though attaching strings to us as first movers could potentially provide greater assistance and more coverages from a rate perspective. And my last cheeky question is, say there were to be a local government contribution and state and Commonwealth, we're not going to see a roller coaster on the site, right? This is a legit project, and there's no higher need, I suppose, at the hospital where this funding could be directed.
Definitely not.
This is the single highest need. Right, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
This is a hospital.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. My first question is in regards to whether or not the development application's been lodged.
No, end of April.
Right, okay. So it might very well be that whilst the city might show some enthusiasm for being involved, we might need to go through the development application process first before we pre-commit any type of financial support. The second question was just in regards to your existing lease arrangements. So you've clearly been on the same site since 1989. I assume that it's a council site and that you've still got a period of time to go on your current lease. Do you know what that is?
2030 it expires. So.
Yeah. So, Mr Mayor, one of the things that we might be able to also facilitate in parallel with the with the assessment of the development application is some type of submission from the hospital in regards to an extension of time on the existing lease arrangements, and that might be able to come through as a separate report to council where we can see if we can assist, because that clearly sets the foundation. They've been there for 34 years. I think the city would support them being there for an extended period of time. So a formal application and the processing of that in parallel with the DA might make sense, Mr Mayor.
Thank you.
All right. Councillors will... Councillor Peter Young.
Through you. Likewise, as Councillor Borsa said, I'm grateful for the opportunity to have this presentation from people who are very passionate and enthusiastic about the work that they do, and it's a passion that's reflected in the community of the whole city, and hence why the city, the council itself, has been a keen supporter. Dr Pine, you might recall we met on a plane flight coming from Hong Kong. It was probably about 4 or 5 years ago now. I think you'd just been to the Guangzhou facility, and I have some fainter recollections about the establishment of that facility, perhaps about 2006. I'm just wondering, was there ever an opportunity for us to seek a financial commitment from the operators there for a facility on the Gold Coast? I kind of recall they were interested in funding a research facility around Coomera at some point.
I'm not sure about Coomera. We've certainly worked with them about trying to set up, facilities. In fact, just before COVID hit, we were talking not so much about facilities, but about them assisting, with research projects, which they were very keen on. And really, then COVID hit, and they had no one going through. Their cash flow dried up, and we're just starting to reconnect, with that discussion now, and we're talking about a small genetics project, which then hopefully we can lead into much bigger projects, because we were talking $1 million type of thing for towards research, and they seemed confident of being able to assist with that. So there's good potential there of them to come, and while we certainly haven't discussed them contributing to capital, we certainly have discussed them contributing to projects and ongoing that will benefit koalas.
So further, if you don't mind, Mr Mayor, can you remind me, is that facility associated with the Guangzhou provincial government, or was it the city?
I'm not sure of the details there,
Okay. Perhaps we could explore that, Mr Mayor, because there's perhaps an opportunity through your ongoing representation of the city with that city or province to get some input towards this very important project as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mr Mayor, and thanks, Dr Pine, for your presentation. And I more than anyone know the good work that you do at the hospital, but I also know the limitations you have at the hospital as well. Even though we had a recent extension a couple of years ago, I mean, to do some of the research that you do already, I think is actually even stretching it. So I do appreciate why this has come forward. I guess my question is in relation to Councillor Vorster's about the state government. Is there any particular submission that you guys are looking at putting to the state government, or have they encouraged you to put a submission in, seeing it is an election year next year?
Yes, and thank you, Councillor O'Neill. Your ongoing support we are very grateful for. Yes, it's a good question. Minister Scanlon, we presented to both Minister Scanlon and Minister Hinchcliffe last year. They're interested from both the point of view of an environment and also tourism perspective. And we had Minister Hinchcliffe come back and visit the hospital a couple of weeks ago, along with some of his team members. They've said that they will come back to us within about 6 weeks now. So we're hoping that they will give us some sort of answer. We don't know to what extent. They're very, as I said before, very generous in supporting the operations of the hospital, and we're hoping that this facility will also be seen in the same light. So we'll let you know.
Any other questions, councillors? Okay. Thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you.
Keep those koalas happy.
Thanks,
There's, Councillor, there's a couple of commercial and confidence comment I'd like to make pertaining to this part of it. So, Councillor, I move that we go into close, commercial and confidence. Second, Councillor Gates. Put the motion to you. All in favour, show of hands. Against, motion carry. Mr CEO, can you streaming on? Okay. No mobile phone, thank you. Right. Councillor Vorster.
Thank you very much, Mr Mayor. I appreciate the opportunity to speak very briefly on this motion. Today we had an opportunity to hear from the Currumbin Wildlife Hospital and Sanctuary about a project which in their view is absolutely critical, not only to their operations as a premier tourism attraction, but also as a servant to the koala population here on the Gold Coast. Mr Mayor, we heard of an opportunity to get behind a project that will not only secure the future of koala populations, but give us as a city an exciting opportunity to support our international tourism economy, our international student economy, but also to create a place where people can come and understand the unique way in which an urban environment interacts with a natural environment. None of this is cheap, Mr Mayor. Very few things that are worth doing come cheaply. However, I'm reasonably confident that the Currumbin Wildlife Hospital has put together a very modest ask, which, if supported by different levels of government and the philanthropic sector, can be achievable, and not in 5 or 10 years, Mr Mayor, but potentially as soon as the end of next year. There are lots of hurdles that the hospital needs to now jump, one of which is seeking an extension of the lease over the land that they will need to construct this facility, but also, Mr Mayor, securing council approval through a formal development application. Subject to those, Mr Mayor, then the discussion around funding can be sought. And what this motion attempts to do today, Mr Mayor, is to send a very strong signal to our Commonwealth and state colleagues that we have an interest in this project, that we provide them, the hospital that is, with our in-principle support, but subject to those two little checks. What we also want to do, Mr Mayor, is to sit shoulder to shoulder with the hospital, Mr Mayor, and assist them in the preparation of a funding advocacy plan to make sure that there is both philanthropic, private, but government funding on the table. And I just want to remark and reflect on how appropriate that is, Mr Mayor. Whether it's with our Nature Conservation Assistance Program or our nature strategy at large, we know that no single actor can do this alone. Achieving good environmental outcomes requires partnership. This is a signal that we are serious about partnership in the environmental space. Thank you.
Councillors, anyone wish to speak against the motion? Would you like to close the your phone?
Mr Mayor, I thought maybe the divisional councillor
No,
could
it's a fine.
Okay, thank you.
We're ready for the vote? All in favour, show of hands.
Mayor Tate, Councillor Hamill, Councillor Owen-Jones, Councillor Gates, Councillor Caldwell, Councillor Peter Young, Councillor Patterson, Councillor Bowden-Lumsden, Councillor Castro, Councillor Tozer, Councillor Taylor, Councillor Vorster, Councillor Pauline Young, Councillor McDonald and Councillor O'Neill.
Okay. Against? Motion carried, unanimous. Mr CEO, regarding the contribution on the potential extending of the lease arrangement, when that comes to a decision, could you do the calculation of what that's worth? So we add that into our monetary contribution. It's good when we add that plus our cash contribution. It's good that the state and feds can match that. Okay. We'll move on now to conflict of interest. Councillor Castro. Or are you the first one up? Yep.
Am I the first one? It looks like it. Yes, Mr Mayor. Mr Mayor, this is something that's coming up. It's a grant that's been requested of myself. It's a very small grant. I think it's about $690 for it's the Brain Injury Association, who are running a small event to raise funds for brain injury victims. They want to run the event at KDV, but the issue with it is that if I give the funding to the association to run the event, they will use part of that funds to those funds for some higher costs and to get some food, mainly, you know, for like lunches and things like that. So indirectly, some of that money will go back to KTV, not a lot, but I just don't think I should be involved in it because obviously my wife's the GM and her brother owns the property. So I wanted to at least explain that, but I've decided that I'll leave the room, even though it's a small. I'd rather do that. I'd just rather not deal with it. And
is an item on today? Is it?
No, it's just something that's actually come up, as I say, through a community grant. But because it's happening outside of here, it's going to have to be done under delegation. And so the advice was that we should probably bring it here today so everyone knows. And even though it's not something.
And you'll volunteer to leave the room.
And well, I'm volunteering not to have any part in determining whether that funding. So I don't know. I probably don't need to leave now. No. But I just wanted to make it all transparent.
Yeah, Councillor Gates.
Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to check with Councillor Castro. If we move the screen down, it says your wife's name. Julie. I thought it was Julia.
No, it's Julia. Does it say Julie?
It says Julie.
Oh, well, picked up. Gee, you're good. There we go. Julia. Okay.
All right. Okay, there's no voting on that then? Just a declaration? Okay. Then we go to Councillor Vorster.
Thank you very much, Mr Mayor. Following some advice from our General Counsel, I'm making 2 declarable conflict of interest declarations today. They substantially relate to the same issue. City officers propose to run a workshop with Varsity Lakes-based businesses to understand the issues facing the retail precinct, and I've been invited to attend that workshop. As you would be aware, Mr Mayor, my brother owns an office suite within that precinct, and I also have a family friend and electoral donor who made a contribution to my campaign outside the relevant period, who operates a business in that same precinct. In order to participate in that workshop and support any recommendations that businesses might pursue, I'm rising to make a DCOI today and asking my colleagues whether it's appropriate that I participate, given my understanding of the pressures in that precinct and that being in the public interest. This first one relates to my brother.
Okay. Right, Councillor Peter Young.
Mr Mayor, I'm happy to move that Councillor Vorster can involve himself in the workshop and decisions made because the broader public interest overwhelms any conflict that he's made apparent to us. Thank you.
Seconder, Councillor Tozer. Anyone want to speak against the motion? Then I'll put the vote. All in favour, show of hands.
Mayor Tate, Councillor Hamill, Councillor Owen-Jones, Councillor Gates, Councillor Caldwell, Councillor Peter Young, Councillor Patterson, Councillor Bowden-Lumsden, Councillor Castro, Councillor Tozer, Councillor Taylor, Councillor Pauline Young, Councillor McDonald and Councillor O'Neill.
Against? Did not vote? Couldn't care less? It is. Full house there. 10.3. Councillor Vorster.
Thank you very much, Mr Mayor. Exactly the same, but now made with respect to the family friend.
The family and friend. So can we use the same, Councillor Peter Young?
Move the same outcome, Mr Mayor.
Okay, there it is. Seconder, Councillor Tozer. I ask you, councillors, does anyone want to speak against the motion? The motion that's on the screen. All in favour, show of hands.
Mayor Tate, Councillor Hamill, Councillor Owen-Jones, Councillor Gates, Councillor Caldwell, Councillor Peter Young, Councillor Patterson, Councillor Bowden-Lumsden, Councillor Castro, Councillor Tozer, Councillor Taylor, Councillor Pauline Young, Councillor McDonald and Councillor O'Neill.
Against? Councillor Vorster did not vote, so motion carried. There's none else on the list, so we shall move on to Lifestyle and Community. Councillor Vorster.
Thank you very much, Mr Mayor. I'll be very brief. I move that the report of the Lifestyle and Community Committee held on Tuesday the 14th of March 2023, covered by recommendations 1 through 6, be received. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Seconder, Councillor Bowden-Lumsden. Put the motion to you. All in favour, show of hands. Against? Motion carried. Councillor, any items you want to do separately? Councillor Peter Young?
Mr Mayor, I'd like to ask a question about item 6.1, please.
We go to 6.1.
This matter is enforcement options for unlawfully parked vehicles, and the recommendations there before us. I don't have a problem with that, but I just wondered about vehicles that are perhaps lawfully parked but unable to be moved on because they're registered. I've had circumstances where these vehicles are trashed, they're painted with signs, they're deliberately just parked, they're registered but they're not a legitimately parked vehicle. It's parked there for advertising purposes, and we're really restrained in moving those vehicles, and I wondered if the Director might be able to give us some feedback about how this may or may not affect those circumstances, if you don't mind, Mr Mayor.
Yeah. Director.
Through you, Mr Mayor. Look, the item does specifically talk about the context around the no standing zones. However, discussion at committee asked the officers to refine our existing processes regarding the removal of vehicles which are an obstruction, and we've given that undertaking. Particularly, we're looking at a far reduced amount of time, and I think Councillor Vorster gave us a good lead to consider 48 hours once we have made every reasonable effort to establish the ownership or the circumstances of what might be considered an abandoned vehicle before we move in, and then under this new provision, under the local law, tow this offending vehicle. So I think that we will have time and opportunity to try and establish whether that vehicle is abandoned or not. Your broader context, however, refers to that consideration of a vehicle that might be lawfully parked but might be impeding flow of traffic in another way, and we can look at that at the same time.
Okay. Any other items you want to deal separately? Councillor Vorster.
Thank you very much, Mr Mayor. I move that the remaining recommendations of the Lifestyle and Community Committee be adopted.
Yeah, all of them. Okay. Seconder, Councillor Bells-Lumsden. Put the motion to you. All in favour, show of hands. Against, carry, unanimous. Thank you, Director. We now go to Transport and Infrastructure. Councillor Pauline Young.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I move that the report of the Transport and Infrastructure Committee meeting held on Tuesday the 14th of March 2023, covered by recommendations 1 to 7, be received.
Seconder, Councillor Taylor, you want to second that? No? Who else wants to second it? Councillor Gates. Put the motion to you. All in favour, show of hands. Against, a motion carried. Any item you will want to deal separately, Councillor Gates?
Yes, please, Mr Mayor. Item 6.3, if I may.
Let's go to 6.3.
I have a changed recommendation, Mr Mayor, which I'll read before I speak to it and see if I get a seconder.
Okay.
And sorry, I didn't give this to the minute secretary, but I'll just, if you don't mind, if I can just pass this over. Sorry. Thank you. There might be one change to that, I think, Mr Mayor, but anyway, what I'd like to move is that the Urban Oasis Public Art be incorporated within Stage 2 of the Green Heart development, noting that this would occur during operational works within the existing proposed budget and at no additional cost to council. And point number 2, that in the interim, the Urban Oasis artwork remains stored at the Middleton Street Depot or other suitable council facility as identified by the Director, Transport and Infrastructure.
Anything else?
That's it.
Right. Do we have a seconder?
Can I ask a question, Mr Mayor?
Ask the question.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I actually suggested that the Silver Ferns be incorporated into Stage 1 of Green Heart because the Stage 1 project, which we've resolved to support and has gone through its procurement process, it includes a budget for public art. And I suggested that Stage 1 absorb the Silver Ferns. My question through you to Councillor Gates is, Why was the thinking stage 2 rather than stage 1, given that we could potentially get these things into the ground without further cost and free up our storage capacity, which is
it's my fault. I didn't think we had enough time to go into stage 1. That's why I said next stage 2. But hearing you saying we go to stage 1, you were happy with that?
This came up for me during my briefing, the roadshow briefing, and I asked the question, Mr Mayor, about when we could do this. Like the funding for artwork or within stage 1 had already been done as far as I was aware in the response that I got, and stage 2 was the appropriate place for this to occur. So I'm simply relying on the information given to me by the officers, but if it can be incorporated into stage 1, I would support that too, Mr Mayor, but that's a matter for...
Why don't we put stage 1 or 2? Leave it to...
So, Mr Mayor, I think that's very sensible, and I think what we might say is, future stages of the Green Heart development, and stage 1 is a future stage because we're breaking ground in a few months.
But I think just put so that we're active, put stage 1 or 2, and being area councillor, you can analyse it and go, let's go with 1 there.
But you're not. Well, stage 1, we'll arm wrestle, Bob.
Who's?
Lacastra is the area councillor.
For 2.
You guys can work it out. Flip a coin.
The only... Mr Mayor, no, look, that was my question too, because the only thing that got me was the no additional cost. There is no additional cost if it's stage 1 because of what Councillor Vorster said, but if it's stage 2, I'm just concerned there will be additional costs because that funding isn't in place. So,
Mr CEO?
Like Mr CEO has the answer. All the money.
Through you, Mr Mayor, I can confirm that stage 2 will have a public arts allocation, and I think the intent was that the public arts allocation would be used to fund the silver ferns in stage 2.
1 or 2, you two work it out. Okay, and Councillor Jones, you seconding that? Another question, yes.
Mr Mayor, in regards to the Middleton Street depot, is it required to be vacated? Is there an operational reason for wanting to potentially move the existing artwork?
Through you, Mr Chair, the accommodation review under the One City program includes our depots, so that is still being looked at, but we would be able to locate them somewhere within the city's remit.
Councillor Jones.
So, Mr Mayor, I'm happy to second that now, if that would be okay with you.
I want to make you happy. Councillor Gates, do you want to speak further on that?
The art has particular significance to our city, as the shielded fern was most definitely part of our history and once grew in abundance in Surfers Paradise. The report, Mr Mayor, indicated that our Gold Coast is one of the most diverse subtropical littoral rainforests in the nation, and I think really it's quite offensive to think of divesting ourselves of this particular artwork, which is really beautiful. It really is beautiful. I mean, I don't know how many councillors have been to the depot to see that artwork. It's massive, it's impressive, and I think it would do us great damage to either divest ourselves of them or send them to the dump, which was also discussed possibly as an option at our committee meeting. So in incorporating it into the operational works of the Green Heart, Mr Mayor, it was my understanding that there would not be additional costs because it could be done at the same time. And, you know, we save $500,000. We found that we were approached by certain board members from the Botanical Gardens and they had no interest in the ferns, and we don't want them going somewhere where there is no interest. They will be a real feature in the Green Heart, and I hope that everyone will support this new motion today so that we can see these beautiful ferns in the appropriate location.
Yeah, good job. Wow. Anyone speak against? Councillor Gates, you want to close further?
Mr Mayor, thank you.
Put the motion to you. All in favour, show of hands. Division.
Mayor, take Councillor Jones, Councillor Gates, Councillor Caldwell, Councillor Peter Young, Councillor Patterson, Councillor Castro, Councillor Tozer, Councillor Taylor, Councillor Vorster, Councillor Pauline Young, Councillor McDonald and Councillor O'Neill.
Against?
Councillor Hamill, Councillor Bowden-Lumsden.
Supermajority carried. Here. Councillors, any other items you want to deal separately? I'll go back to the chair.
Could I deal with the transport, the autonomous vehicles separately so I could vote against it? Thanks, Mr Mayor.
Yes, okay. We go to 7.1. Who moved the motion there, 7.1? Councillor Vorster, did you? Okay. Yep. And seconder? Councillor Pauline Young. You need to speak further on that?
Through you, Mr Mayor, do you intend to speak or just vote? No, I don't need to speak.
Okay.
Mr Mayor.
Well, in that case, I'll put the motion to you. All in favour, show hands. Against? Motion carried. Any other? Could you please note Councillor Owen Jones and Councillor Gates voted in the negative. Any other items you want to deal separately? Back to Councillor Pauline Young.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I move that the remaining recommendations of the Transport and Infrastructure Committee be adopted.
Seconder, Councillor Peter Young. The young ones. Put the motion to you. All in favour, show hands. Against? Motion carried. Thank you, Director. Planning Environment, Councillor Corwell.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I move that the report of the Planning and Environment Committee meeting held on Thursday the 16th of March 2023, covered by recommendations 1 to 9, be received.
Seconder, Councillor Gates, you want to do that? Yes, thank you. Put the motion to you. All in favour, show hands. Against? Carried. Councillors, anyone want to... Councillor Tozer.
Item 6.8, please, Mr Mayor.
Sorry?
Item 6.8, please, Mr Mayor.
6.8. 6.8, councillors.
And I'll just move the committee recommendation. I just want to take the opportunity. It was a start item, and it's quite an important issue for our city. I just wanted to quickly speak to it, if that's all right, Mr Mayor. So
yeah, okay. Well, you want to move
just
it?
Move the committee recommendation, yeah.
Move the recommendation. Seconder, Councillor Peter Young.
Mr Mayor, this program relates to the Conservation Partnerships program, where we, loosely, just for the interest of the community, we make contributions, financial contributions, to help landowners manage weeds and other environmental issues that are on their private property. It's a really great example, particularly in some of our hinterland areas where the council is doing their bit to help private landholders manage their natural environment. And what that does is actually significantly lower the obligations on council to manage adjacent public land. Weeds don't understand property boundaries, Mr Mayor, but some of the bodies of work that has been done through these projects are amazing, and right now the city can, members of the city, residents of the city, property owners, can actually submit applications to participate in the next program, where we provide some funding to help private property owners, particularly in hinterland areas with large vegetated estates, manage weeds or revegetate riparian zones, or any number of things that can help our native wildlife. With everything going on that we've heard about with the Currumbin Wildlife Sanctuary today, and some of our commitment to environmental activity in the city, this program is really, really great. Whilst it was a start item at committee and kind of flew through, I just think it's really quite profound. There's $144,000 in project value delivered through this program, helping property owners manage their own obligations on their own land with the assistance of council. Thanks,
Yeah,
Mr. Mayor.
very good. Against anyone? I deem that closed then. Councillor Tozer, put the motion to you. All in favour, show hands. Against, carry, unanimous. Any other items, councillors? None, there's none. All right. Councillor Owen Jones.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. 6.7, but I only just want to vote against it, Mr Mayor. So.
All right. 6.7. Who moved it?
I'll move.
Move. Councillor Caldwell. Seconder, Councillor Peter Young. Councillor Caldwell, you want to speak further? Nobody wants to speak against? Put the motion to you. All in favour, show of hands. Against? Motion carried. 1, 2, 3 against. Hamill, Owen Jones, Gates against, okay? Anyone else against? No, Councillor Gates. You don't want it? Yeah, but Any other items?
Yes, Mr Mayor, thank you. Item 6.3 for a declaration, please, Mr Mayor.
6.3 for declaration.
And, Mr Mayor, this item involved an application that was associated with BC Curry Surveys, and I accepted donations from them, Mr Mayor, in 2008, $1,000, and in 2011, $4,170. I raised it at committee and advised that due to the length of time since the receipt of donations and my desire to represent the community interest, I wanted to take part in the decision. I've had no contact with Luke or Brett Curry or their staff for many years.
Okay, there's a procedural motion drafted there in front of us. Anyone would like to move that? Councillor Tozer, thank you. Seconder, anyone? Councillor Pauline Young. It's on the screen. Do you want to speak further on that? No. Okay. Anyone speak against? Put the motion to you. All in favour, show of hands.
Mayor Tate,
Okay.
Councillor.
Yeah, go on.
Good. Mayor Tate, Councillor Hamill, Councillor Owen-Jones, Councillor Corwell, Councillor Patterson, Councillor Bowden-Lumsden, Councillor Castro, Councillor Tozer, Councillor Taylor, Councillor Vorster, Councillor Pauline Young, Councillor McDonald and Councillor O'Neill.
Yeah, against. Councillor Gates and Councillor Peter Young did not vote. Councillor Peter Young.
Mr Mayor, I similarly have a declaration in regard to this matter, and the details should be before you. I became aware that the Nerang Community Association made a submission about this particular property development, and I'm a personal friend of 3 members of the Executive Committee of the Nerang Community Association, Derek and Lynn Ogden and Peter Cardona. I've not discussed the matter with them. They formulated their own submission. They have nothing to lose or gain from making their submission or the outcome of the decision, and I'm seeking to be involved in the decision myself to ensure the broader public interest is represented for the division. Thank you.
Councillors, there's a draft procedural motion in front of us. Does someone like to move that? Councillor Vorster, seconder. Councillor Pauline Young, need to speak up further?
No, Mr Mayor, but I just want to make sure that Lynn's name was spelt correctly. Is it L-I-N or L-Y-N?
You're right, it's a Y.
It's a Y.
I recall it from social media, Mr Mayor, that's why.
Oh, okay. Anyone speak against the procedural? Put the motion to you. All in favour, show of hands.
Mayor Tate, Councillor Hamill, Councillor Owen-Jones, Councillor Corwell, Councillor Patterson, Councillor Bowden-Lumsden, Councillor Castro, Councillor Tozer, Councillor Taylor, Councillor Vorster, Councillor Pauline Young, Councillor McDonald and Councillor O'Neill.
Against? Did not vote. Councillor Gates and Councillor Peter Young. The motion carried. We'll deal with this item then. Councillor Corwell, you want to move it?
Happy to move, Mr Mayor.
Move. Councillor Corwell, seconder. Councillor Tozer, you want to speak further? No? Okay. Against anyone? Put the motion to you. All in favour, show of hands. Against? Carry. Unanimous. And Councillor Peter Young voted in favour because it's unanimous. And Councillor Gates, no, it doesn't matter, we're going to put it in. Councillor Gates also voted in the positive. Any other items do you want to deal separately? Councillor Patterson.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I just wanted to speak to and move 6.6 regarding the Southport PDA.
We're going to 6.6. Councillor Patterson's going to move on it. Anyone who wants a second? Councillor Peter Young, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The Southport Priority Development Area Scheme was introduced in 2014 and there hasn't been a full review of that scheme until now. This is acknowledging the work that we're done. We're in phase 2, and I wanted to acknowledge the officers and also the external consultants who've really led a very real and tangible engagement with our community. We've had over 1,000 people respond, 98% of them from within the CBD, and a lot of individual one-on-one conversations with our businesses. I'm feeling very confident with the process of this, that we're getting somewhere that's going to be very real, that will make a real difference to the CBD. So from the public's perspective, they should be expecting the next round of public consultation to be later this year, once some drafting's been done. Thank you.
Anyone speak against that? No. Right, the motion is closed. Put the motion to you. All in favour, show of hands. Against, motion carry unanimous. Here. Right, any other items separately? Councillor Caldwell.
So good to hear you two singing off the same song sheet, hey? Mr Mayor, I'm happy to move that the remaining recommendations of the Planning and Environment Committee be adopted.
Seconder. Councillor Gates. The motion to you. All in favour, show of hands. Against? Councillor Tozer, was that a yes? I didn't. It's unanimous. We're good. Thank you, Nick. Okay. We're going to water, waste and energy.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Mr Mayor, I move that the report of Water, Waste and Energy Committee meeting held on Thursday, 16th of March 2023, covered by recommendations 1 to 9, be received.
Seconder, Councillor Hamill. Put the motion to you. All in favour, show of hands. Against? Motion carried. Councillors, same question. Any item deal separately? Councillor Hamill.
Mr Mayor, 7.2, just to speak to it quickly.
Okay. We're going to 7.2. You're going to move it?
Yes, please.
Move. Second to Councillor Pauline Young. Councillor Hamill.
Mr Mayor, on the back of the committee, there was some further advice provided by officers just that I want to bring the attention of all councillors for them to have a read of. So that advice came out on the 24th of March and it shows the 10-year table in regards to the waste levy and impacts that could have on residents. So it's not in the report, but I think the director, maybe in future reports, when we can get that table in that shows there's a different breakdown, that would be handy. But just to encourage all councillors, if you haven't read that advice that came on the 24th of March from the director about what the impacts of the waste levy look like to our residents for the next 10 years, it's very worthwhile because we have a big problem coming and we need to be doing everything we can, including 7.3, which is the next item in this report, which is getting us on the path of making sure we take every action we can as soon as possible to reduce the impact on our residents, not just in the short-term future, but the long-term future as well.
Okay. Anyone speak against that motion? Then I put the motion to you. All in favour, show of hands. Against, carry unanimous. Any items you want to deal separately, councillors? Councillor O'Neill.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I move that the remaining recommendations of the Water, Waste and Energy Committee be adopted.
Seconder, Councillor Peter Young. Put the motion to you. All in favour, show of hands. Against, carry unanimous. Thank you, Director. We go to Governance, Administration and Finance. Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I move the report of the Governance, Administration and Finance Committee meeting held on Tuesday the 21st of March 2023, covered by recommendations 1 to 12, be received, please.
Seconder, Councillor Patterson. Put the motion to you. All in favour, show of hands. Against, motion carry. Any item you wish to deal separately, councillors? Councillor Jones.
Mr Mayor, I move through all of those recommendations.
Seconder, Councillor Patterson. Put the motion to you. All in favour, show of hands. Against? Carry unanimous. Thank you, Doctor. Consideration notice of motion, nil. Question on notice, nil. Presentation of petition. This is a yes or a no question. Whether we keep it, we accept or we don't. It's not about debating the merits of the petition itself. So, in saying that, Councillor O'Neill.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I ask that the council accept a petition that's been given to me about a review into the impact of the Tweed River entrance sand bypassing project has had on the southern Gold Coast beaches, particularly Rainbow Bay, and the loss of beach amenity enjoyed by the community and visitors to the southern Gold Coast beaches prior to the commencement of the TREPS project.
Seconder, Councillor Gates.
Mr Mayor, I just ask that this petition be presented to the beaches team to bring back a report to council.
Okay, go team. Put the motion to you. All in favour, show of hands. Against? Carried. Unanimous. We have one more. Councillor McDonald.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I ask that Council accept the petition for more bike paths and cycleways in Koala Park.
Seconder, Councillor Vorster. Okay. Put the motion to you. All in favour, show of hands. Against? Carried. Okay. General business, nil. Mr CEO? None. 16, other business. It's very grey, this one. Put the motion in front. Yeah, I'll move that. Seconder, Councillor Peter Young. Mr. CEO, can you speak on my behalf?
I can. I can, Mr Mayor, noting that it is a confidential paper, so I'll do it in general terms. So what has been put before Council is a basic process for appointment of directors and chair to the Experienced Gold Coast Board. It is broadly consistent with the conversation that was had at the special meeting where Council decided to set up Experienced Gold Coast, and the City Administration is confident that it's consistent with the discussion that was had in that session.
Anyone speak against? Councillor Jones.
Mr Mayor, I just had a question in regards to the remuneration. I'm assuming that that's just for external members.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Yes, that is correct.
The answer is yes, yeah. Okay. Any speak against? Put the motion to you. All in favour, show of hands. Against? Motion carry. Unanimously pass. As there's no other, meeting closed 12:22. Lunch is ready in 8 minutes.
Alicia?